Consistent with political trends we're seeing across the world, conservative leadership, or the big bad far right, if you ask the left, are forming governments in many places. British Columbia almost saw that late last year during our election, where the BC Conservatives, Conservative Party of B.C, came out of nowhere and almost formed government after not being in power for 100 years. Now they stand as the province's biggest opposition party. But what does that mean in 2025? And who will that party be moving forward? A good way to keep your eye on indicators of that is to see who the party's delegates will be and what policies or culture changes they'd like to see be brought forward in the party. I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, bringing you an interview with 3 delegate hopefuls to bring you that side of the story. At the end of this month, February 28th to March 2nd, the Conservative Party of B.C. is expected to host their annual general meeting in Nanaimo. They're expected to see around 300 delegates show up, and that's from over, 90 ridings. And members who are in good standing with their membership are allowed to attend this meeting. Now, why is that significant? These 300 some odd delegates will be bringing forth resolutions and voting on things like leadership, who's on the executive board, what policy changes, and even constitution changes should occur in the party. And I know many of you have had concerns. Is the party going to stay with the vibe that you felt it had, or is it going to shift into something more like the BC Liberals? Today, I bring you an interview with 3 delegate hopefuls. In fact, all of them I've interviewed on Rebel News before. One is Karen Litsky. I interviewed her when she was running for a school trustee position with a mission to stop sexualizing children in that riding. She wants to bring forth a resolution that, like we're seeing in the U.S., in such a satisfying way, tackles DEI policies. That's diversity, so-called anyways, diversity, equity, inclusion policies that leave little white kids feeling like they're racist when they're not, and teach you to treat people based on who they sleep with or their color of their skin instead of their merit. Also, I've interviewed Gwen O'Mahony before. She was actually a former candidate for the Conservative Party of MLA, and she brought to the public at large the fact that under the BC NDP socialist government, we've gone so far as allowing vending machines that handed out free crack pipes and cocaine snorting kits to anyone of any age able to press a button. Gwen O'Mahony would like to bring forth a resolution that has the Conservative Party of BC focus, shed light, and investigate the church burning sprees that have become normalized, many of which have taken place in British Columbia. And Bryony Dixon, she's an actual women's rights advocate and also stands against the medical transitioning of children. You know, she'd like them not to be mutilated or sterilized because they go through a period of gender confusion. And she wants to bring forth a resolution that makes sure that the Conservative Party of BC is not compromised by Big Pharma and make sure to stand for things like our medical rights if some sort of medical experience wants to become mandated in the future. Here's what they had to say.
Well, it just overall, for any political party, AGMs are really, really important. Because it's a good time for members to get together, to network and to unify. You set your policies that set you on track for the upcoming years. And some of these policies and some of these motions you put forward might actually become part of the platform in the next election. It's about accountability and transparency. So you get a chance to take a look at how the fundraising is going, how the money is being spent. So they're really, really important overall for any political party. Yeah, my resolution focuses on the church burnings that have been occurring actually across Canada in record numbers in the last few years. I think there's about 33 churches that have been, completely burnt to the ground. and 24 through the investigations, 24 have resulted in the acknowledgement that those were arsons. And yet, our federal and our provincial governments have actually been fairly silent and almost wanting to hold back on actually calling it, what it is, which is actually an anti-Christian hate crime.
Other important issues as well, of course, both Bryony and Karen are addressing important issues to our viewers for sure. Bryony, you are sort of looking to tackle big pharma in a way. How does that connect to the Conservative Party of BC?
Go big or go home, I think, right? Yeah, I'm looking to, as a former old school leftist who's suspicious of major corporations, and big pharma is very much prominent in that. I basically bringing forward a resolution to try and ensure that we develop and enact a plan to defend the policies of the BC Conservatives against any efforts by big pharma to alter them in any way, especially because the platform that they were running on, which I think garnered a lot of support from people like me, was focused on ending coercive mandates for experimental vaccines. It was focusing on ending the so-called safer supply that's being diverted into the hands of children, among many other things, and causing real, devastation in our communities. And record numbers of drug deaths. And then obviously the thing that I speak about most publicly is the experimental so-called gender affirming care for children, coming off the back of the CAS review out of the UK, which is where I'm from, and the WPATH files reports just showing that there's no evidence behind this. And so obviously there is a financial incentive to get these kind of lifetime subscription models to pharmaceuticals, and that's obviously influencing politics in some way.
And I can't help but think of what's happening at our neighbors with the US, with Trump coming in, pausing the CDC, pausing the NIH right now. And, I can't say exactly what he's doing. I would assume, based on all of the censorship and sort of the one-sided information coming out of there, that they're really taking a big change. But we don't necessarily have that happening here. So it does sound important to have some sort of accountability there. Karen, I'm going to move over to you.
It's almost overwhelmingly obvious that DEI tends to, the effects of DEI are not what's hoped for. And it's really characteristic of a lot of left-wing policymaking that it states good intentions, and delivers the exact opposite. And so what we know about DEI is that it basically restricts performance and it increases costs. And that's in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. And there's no operation, private or public, where that's a good thing. So the resolution that I'm drafting speaks specifically to government agencies, to the use of DEI in government agencies, in universities, and also just generally the in terms of it being a framework for teaching in public schools, so that we're basically conditioning kids to think in this way, which creates and what DEI does is it creates hierarchies in people's minds about people based on external characteristics, and so it completely overlooks their actual capacity to contribute to an enterprise.
They say, colorblind is racism. I'm reminded of Attorney General Nikki Sharma coming up with the idea of actually having a group with racialized people only, AKA no whites allowed, to discuss how to tackle racism. So this is the government we're under. So what can these initiatives, what can these resolutions do when it's, I don't want to say only within the opposition, but it's not the one seat majority NDP.
It is an annual general meeting within the party. So the process of these resolutions is to create the purpose of these is to create an opportunity for dialogue within the party among members and bringing the sentiments of voters, and discussing with caucus and leadership, kind of creating a unity of vision within the party. And that makes it a more effective opposition to the NDP, assuming that that is the result that sticks after there's an investigation of the election results. But the most effective opposition will come from a consistent message that that caucus can deliver in the legislature, that other people can help bring into mainstream media coverage, and that can turn up in social media coverage. Just having the model that we talk about these things. We talk about them even with people where we might have some disagreements.
And I'd like to add, as someone that can't vote because I'm not a citizen, this is a way that I can be engaged politically with provincial politics through my membership with the party and coming to the AGM and putting this resolution forward. And I just have many conversations with other immigrants that are aligned with my views on a lot of these issues. And so they're always kind of feeling very demoralized and defeated about the fact that they don't have a voice in any of it. So this is actually a way that we're able to do that and get our opinions across to the elected representatives that are going to then hopefully be a strong opposition in the way that we need them to be.
And then, like the three of us here, we put our name forward to be considered as delegates. And it's about 10 nominees per riding.
And you can only vote for our resolutions if you are a delegate. That's another essential part, I think.
At Rebel News, we bring you the other side of the story, including when Conservative governments are in power. If you appreciate my reports on BC leadership and want to see more on them, you can go to our special site called bcleadershipreports.com to catch up and to donate what you can.